You're listening to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, comics, television, movies, and more. If it impacts fan culture, we have something to say about it. And now, your hosts, Michael, Jordan, Cliff, and Seth.
4, 3. You guys are so happy I'm back. 1. Hi, I'm the illustrious Michael K. Easton.
I am Jordan Lowe.
Cliff Barnes.
I'm Seth. God, we can finally talk about all this stuff we've been watching. Let's do it.
What an exciting time.
It is unbelievable. I sat today trying to catch up on some of this stuff, watching the latest episode of the Marvel Disney show, and then you turn around and got to watch the new comic book cartoon on Amazon and catch the newest trailer of, some blockbuster superhero movie coming out after you saw some unbelievable that it even exists 4-hour cut of a superhero movie this week. It's ridiculous, an embarrassment of riches.
We are spoiled as fans.
We really
Can you
are.
imagine?
Even friend of show Russ here. I was just on Facebook as we were just talking before we started. He even posted about I just watched Invincible. I just watched episode 2 Falcon and Winter Soldier. I watched Flash, and I watched Superman and Lois, and he's like, this is insane to be all this stuff on everything, every platform there is right now.
Can you imagine? Once upon a time, we actually had to take a remote and flip through channels to find something to watch.
And it wasn't superhero related,
No.
I'm sure.
It was Mutant X, and that was as good as you got.
But yeah, the world wasn't quite ready to quit WandaVision. People were still talking about that. There were still, producer said this was a cutscene. They were still getting news stories out of that show. And boom, Disney Plus hits us with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier already. We're rolling. We're 2 episodes into it already.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And it's good.
It is. I was I thought this had the possibility to be something I really liked. I always liked that odd couple, not A-list, heroes anyways. And so I kind of had high hopes for it, but I was at the same time, I was kind of like, don't get too excited. There's probably a reason why they put WandaVision out first when, instead of this one, a whole bunch of stuff. And then that first episode hit, and I was just like, man, yeah, I'm feeling this. This is great. Got some action back. It feels very much like those, 20, however many Marvel movies we've watched. So,
And it does that thing like we've talked, spotlighting some characters who haven't got a whole lot of screen time. Bucky's been in 6 movies or whatever it is, and we've probably seen him more in this show already than all the movies combined. So it's nice to be able to, that opening scene with the planes and the skydiving and all, that's crazy action, but then you can slow down and have a therapy session and a quiet moment. And the show just gives you that space that a 2-hour movie just can never do. So I said, this was not high on my list. I was looking forward to it, but yeah, I didn't think it was going to be the best thing I've ever seen, but it's had moments that have just really clicked with me. So I'm really enjoying it so far.
Well, it is right up my alley as far as being Cap lore.
yeah,
And
this
to
should
take
be your show.
Take the 2 different stories here, 3 even, where you've got who will wield the shield. Brubaker did after Winter Soldier came back and Cap died in the comics, and then it was, will it be Sam? Will it be Bucky? And who's worthy of picking up the shield in that run in Volume 5, mixing that with this later run we had where it ended up being Sam getting it after Bucky did it, but then later Sam, and there was a new Falcon and all that, and then how society accepted him as a Black Captain America, mixed with the iconic Mark, probably one of my favorite runs in comics is Mark Grunwald's run through the 300s and into the 400s, where he's had Johnny Walker, Super Patriot, becoming Cap, and Cap being the captain, and all that, mixing those stories all into this one show seamlessly is incredible. It's just a great. I like the first episode, but when they slowed down here in this second episode and introduced Johnny and just like let you see how they were going to do this story, and I wasn't sure what they were going to do, how Wyatt Russell they were going to introduce this character, because it's not exactly like the comics. I mean, they've had to change it to fit into the universe they've created here.
And that's Kevin Feige from the beginning has done that so well, picking and choosing moments and characters and storylines, never adapting them exactly, but tweaking them and making them modern and making them fit the continuity we already have. So just the behind the scenes construction of the Marvel Universe, we always crow about. But as I said, even on this little show, it fits in so well with the Chris Evans Captain America, where we left that, where we left these other two characters, where we left the Marvel Universe as a whole with the blip and all this stuff. Like, everything just fits so well. And I'll never stop being amazed by how well they're able to seed this stuff in.
And to go back and use this old things, I heard mention the Power Broker, which is going to explain all these super soldiers, and you've got instead of Carl, you got Carly, where they've changed that, and that's that girl from Solo, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure it is.
I sat there watching, I was like, that's
Emphas Nest.
Yeah, she's great, and she's going to be like at least one of the faces of the Flag Smasher, and I don't know. I was bowled over by it, and I feel like this is one of those things again that they do so well, where the villains, or at least the antagonists in these shows you're going to be able to see their perspective. I totally, you could totally see John's perspective throughout this second episode, and he's he's a charismatic, likable character for a lot of it, and you've got Lamar Hoskins, Battles. Is it Battlestar?
Battlestar.
Yeah, and then freaking the surprise, which I kind of thought, would they say anything about him this season? Isaiah Bradley. It's just like what a great thing to throw in there, and how this. This is deep stuff. This is going to get messy.
Yeah.
The cops coming. All of that stuff. This is going to be a messy series. I'm kind of sad that it's only 6 episodes. How are they going to? They've dug a hole here.
Yeah, how are they going to wrap it all up?
Yeah, we're a third done. Zack Snyder wouldn't have even introduced all his characters yet.
Yeah, there'd still be girls singing about smelling what Aquaman was wearing.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's been good action scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first one had the stuff in the sky with the helicopters and skydiving. The second one had the
Batroc
semi-trucks.
de Lipa.
The Batroc. Second episode had the semi-trucks. But to me, that's all background. Like,
yeah,
I almost zone out. Like, that stuff is cool looking. The stunt work is great. The effects are great. But it's like, okay, I've seen it before. I don't like, I don't want to be cynical that way. But just to me, the character stuff and the dreaded politics, like the political angles they're going at, amaze me at what they're trying to say about America and our current time right now. And I don't know how deep how deep the show will get into that, or how much we should get into it.
I love that they're not shying away from it. Like you would never think that Disney would do this.
Definitely.
Seriously,
Mm-hmm.
they are going for it.
Yeah.
Like
Think
to
where
think
we are right
that's
now.
what the show is about.
Mm-hmm.
We are on the back end of a pandemic where we lost 500,000 lives in this country. And the government the government failed us. We didn't get, financial support. We didn't get health care that we needed. Like, we were just kind of left on our own. And here comes this show about the Thanos snapped and created a blip. Like, it's the dumbest, goofiest sci-fi concept. But in this universe, there's a tragedy. And we're exploring how the government dropped the ball. They can't keep up with how many people need help.
The
And it's
infrastructure
that's powerful. I'm still feeling. We're all living through that right now.
I would have.
This is a show commenting on what we're living through right now.
That's so funny because I was on the same wavelength as you, except a little before. Like, I've been watching the show and realizing the state of the world that they're implying. It's like, I more take the blip as like it's supposed to be 5 years. So for 5 years, I don't care which side you're on, for 5 years, half the people you knew you couldn't reach anymore. They weren't there anymore. So it's like, that's how we've all felt. And that just matches perfectly up with that universe. And now they're back, maybe, or like how are we tentative around everyone? And it's just,
yeah.
I wish this was a longer series. I don't know whether partway through I hope they don't go partway through and back up quickly from what they're doing. I just hope they can satisfyingly flesh out this story, because I think everybody's doing a great job. That scene that made no sense, that they both had to suddenly have a therapy session, but that was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But still very well done, and just getting progressing like their relationship. And I'm impressed with Anthony Mackie. Everyone else I kind of expect, but I've always kind of, sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not, but he's been very good in these first 2 episodes. And I think it's only getting better.
One of my favorite things about episode 1, which is kind of trivial, but it's just along the lines of, how do superheroes get paid, of when they're in the bank trying to get the loan.
I knew it was it's $1,000 a week.
And him asking, like, how do you guys get paid? Like, that was so great. I mean, I love that scene. Like, because I mean, it put it in like real world situations.
You get paid from the Tony Stark Foundation, $1,000 a week. It's always been. You can live at the mansion if you want to.
I think my wife's watching something about some girls at a mansion. Oh, that's something totally different.
Some cable. Okay, we could truckle on. We'll cover some more of that in a couple weeks. Catch up with it, see where we're at. But so far, I really liked Wyatt Russell. I was impressed with him. And
I thought he was great in the way he needed to be, where that first episode, he was in it for 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And he immediately became a meme and a reference for people who are disappointed. And like, he's a letdown and a lesser version of something. Like, my face when the store sold out of this, I gotta get the generic version. Like that kind. Like, that's exactly what he needs to be. He'll never be Steve Rogers. And that's how the public took it. The real life public took him as an actor, exactly how that character would be taken in the Marvel universe. That was so perfect.
But it also goes right along the lines of the first Avengers movie, where we love Cap in this first movie, and then we see him in the suit in Avengers, and we're like, WTF. This what is this?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with
Star-Spangled Man with a Plan.
Yeah. Like, when he shows up, like, I've seen that meme of where they compare the new Captain America versus the guy in Up with the mask.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fix the mask to fit his face. It's not hard to do. You can do this.
But he was good in that second episode. He had some of that Kurt Russell swagger to it. Like, he had a good presence. Like, I don't think he's a straight up villain. Like, at least now he's trying to do the right thing. He'll never be Steve again. Like, he doesn't have that moral compass, but
yeah, it's a very good. Yeah, I love that. I've always loved that John Walker character in the comics that has that feel. Like he's earnest and means well. I'm curious if they take it down that personality. It doesn't look to me like they're going to take it down that road of where he's like a little bit of crazy.
Yeah.
You know? But
well, I mean, that's a character. He's always been the modern day version of Captain America. Of, you know,
I love that new shield though, in the newer version of that U.S. agent shield in the comics.
The one that keeps getting broken and replaced.
Yeah. But it says U.S. agent on it, and it looks really cool. Anyway,
I don't like this shield too much. Like,
no, they changed it's almost like, is there something? What is there?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like something's going to come out of it, like another Red Wing or something. You know, it's just like it's not. They've changed something, and I don't know why they do it. You know?
Well, I'm sure we'll talk costuming in our
enough about piping
Justice League review. But yeah, the Captain, it's overly too many lines, too much detail. Like it could be better, simpler. But I just, before we leave this, I have to get into like the layers of meaning and depth to this show. Again, like even that shield, it's all about the importance of symbols. You know, Steve Rogers is a symbol. This shield is a symbol, and it's America. That's and the representation that we always talk about. You know, you need to see yourself. You have to have something to aspire to. You have to see something to believe in, and Captain America was that naturally. As like, are you going to be able to force that into somebody else? So we're dealing with all that stuff. And I don't know how dark it's going to get, but like that idea of like using
it becomes a product.
Right. Using him as a prop. Like, hey, everyone, here's a new Captain America. Love him. He's draped in the flag.
The first, scene on the football field with the band, and they're wearing the matching costumes, and they're playing the updated Man with the Plan, the whole thing.
It's the same thing over again. Well, I thought that was another thing about the whole therapy session where they kind of actually were like what their problems were. And it's like, Bucky is so the woke. Come on. Why wouldn't you? We're not racist. Why don't you just do this? Why didn't you do this?
Exactly.
And he doesn't understand that Sam's got to be like, can I wear the colors of represent a country that doesn't maybe represent me? Do I need to explain all this to you, or you just, you don't understand it. You think you accept me. So
all these things, sense. All these things that are the loan application, getting hassled by the cop, all these things that are like, look what black people have to go through in America. It's like, it's showing Sam like how he's been treated all his life. And like, is he immediately going to trust he's going to be treated well? Is the government going to, trust him to do the same stuff they let Steve do? Are the American people going to get behind him? And it shows Bucky, let's use the word privilege. Bucky's privilege just be like, no, Sam's great. Your merit should be all that matters. You'd make a great Captain America. And Sam's like, you're not seeing what's happening. Right. Because Bucky's never had to deal with that. He's older than a baby boomer, I guess. He's the greatest generation, but that's just like we should all be colorblind. Everything's fine. You have the skills. You should be Captain America, and that's peeling this back, saying America doesn't work that way. Yeah. Just because you're the best doesn't mean you're gonna get ahead. There are other factors systemically entrenched in this country that are not going to make that path easy. And it's like, holy crap! Like this is a TV show for kids,
and they're doing it. In that amount of time so well. That's I'm right there with you. I was definitely impressed with that.
It hits pretty hard, in a good way. And even the other stuff, the Bucky stuff, the PTSD stuff that he's dealing with, And
I love him hanging out with that guy, that old guy that's like
Yuri.
a million years old. It just that is so cute.
Yeah.
You know, he's
well,
like, I'm
just
this
the
old.
fact
You know?
that, yeah, because he's the same age as him, and like
Even
like in the first
Battleship,
episode-
the board game, is almost too new.
I honestly, when I first saw that scene in the first episode, I thought that was one of his wartime buddies. Like I
Yeah,
thought
I
that's
did too.
what they were going
Yeah, I
with.
figured it was a Howling Commando or something.
I
Yeah.
did too.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that
only
twist was really strong. Of like, oh, that's what's going on.
Yeah. No, it kind of was a complaint though to me, like that again, he killed somebody, you know, just randomly that anyway.
Yeah, to me, the whole core of the show, when he says this suit comes with expectations. Like again, we've had 20 movies of Captain America, like showing. We've had the time to show what that symbol means to the people of the Marvel universe, and how hard it would be to follow up. And that I was reminded that thing people have said about running for president before, that anyone who wants it probably shouldn't have it.
Right.
Like if you would want to be Captain America, there's probably something wrong. You probably don't have the temperament. So like if that's the idea, if that's the idea, this Johnny Walker's like, I want to be Cap, I'll save the day, means he's the wrong guy for the job already. Even if he's not quote unquote evil or a bad guy,
Right.
it's kind of already setting up you're not Captain America. You're always going to be some lesser version. So just having that stuff as the baseline, even if it's all from now just action and fun, witty banter, buddy cop stuff, like it's already surpassed anything I needed it to do for me. So good job.
Yeah.
So good job.
Good job.
All right,
KPP stamp of approval.
Boom. That's right. So let's move on here. We had the first 3 episodes drop of Robert Kirkman's Invincible on Amazon Prime.
Come on.
Knock it off, Todd.
I think Amber's been pretty clear about how she feels. I'm nothing like my dad. I want to be just like you.
I've fought to keep this planet safe. Your power's got to be due any day now, son.
Morning. I'm scared, Dad. What if I can't do this?
Follow me. Slow down. Land. I said land. Stop! Get up.
I'm actually getting used to this a little.
That's not good.
You need to be better. After everything he's done, how can I live up to all that?
You need to decide what kind of hero you want to be. That was you in the blue and the yellow.
Why don't you meet the team after school?
May we count on you in the future?
Yeah, I think so.
And bored of this.
Guys, can I say one thing?
Probably not.
Holy,
Yeah, how good was this cartoon?
and that was just the first episode.
Well, I can
How many
tell
has
you,
everyone watched?
I watched 3.
I got
watched
one.
3.
Yeah, I watched 2.
Yeah, I can tell you, Michael, that the next 2 are just as good as the first one. So
Well,
And-
Cliff, I wondered about you because this is definitely more adult,
Yeah.
violent, sort of mature thing, and that's not always your bag of.
well, yeah, it's not always my thing, but I think just I don't feel like they marketed the show as if it was, you know.
I feel like it's going to be one of those sleepers that's going to build word of buzz,
Mhm.
and then people are going to start flocking. I mean, like Rick and Morty. If you think about Rick and Morty when it first came out, a lot of people weren't really behind it. And
I
then
wonder
all of a
how
sudden,
many-
boom.
How many parents are going to see that cartoon pop up and start watching with their kids? And that
Yeah.
first episode is there's going to be some irate people. There's, pretty blatant warnings there, 18 plus, but
Mhm.
You
Well,
can
let's
sneeze
just
and
No
make
one
say-
a
pays
sound.
attention.
No.
My wife does not love or like blood in any type of movie show. And unfortunately and fortunately, she got sick at the right time tonight where she did not see anything.
Well,
Doesn't
I mean,
love or like it, but unfortunately,
it's very violent. I mean, it's a cartoon, but it's very violent. There's language, but
language.
it didn't feel like it took over the story to me. Like
all-star cast.
Oh, the
Yeah,
voice cast is
definitely.
amazing.
Ridiculous.
When we first announced this, I said it was probably the best voice cast ever assembled for anything.
Right.
I can
Steve
tell
Yoon,
you,
Sandra Oh, J.K. Simmons, Gillian Jacobs, Walton Goggins, Jason Mantzoukas, Zachary Quinto, Mark Hamill, Clancy Brown, Seth Rogen, Zazie Beetz, Andrew Rannells, Mahershala Ali, John Hamm, and like twice that many. There's everyone who's ever been on The
A
Walking
million
Dead.
people.
If there's
That's
a
half the
speaking
fun.
part, it's some famous person behind it. So
well, that's half the fun is like when you're listening to it, not
Mhm.
knowing who they're playing, and like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's that and that's that.
yeah.
But I can honestly tell you, when I was watching the first episode, because I was eating dinner, well, unfortunately, my wife was too, but as we're eating dinner, like I am literally staring at the TV, not even paying attention to my food. I was so enthralled, like it even got to the point where, like, because we have like this table that like it rises up to like eat in the living room,
Yeah.
like our coffee table. I was on my knees, like eating my food, like looking at the TV.
A little
going,
kid, Saturday
just-
morning.
Yeah, I
Where's
mean,
your beanbag?
exactly. I was like, again, holy shnikes.
I'm
Now-
pretty sure the rest of us had, but Jordan, how much or all of this series had you read? Did you?
That's
read?
what I was just going to
I-
ask.
I am currently halfway through the second omnibus or compendium. So I've read about 70 issues of it.
It's 100, right?
It's 125, something like that. So yeah, I'm about halfway, and it's very faithful. The art is taken, it looks like Ryan Otley's character design, costume design, everything's very faithful. But it might be better. I hate to say that 2 episodes in, but like Kirkman took a while to figure it out. The characterizations, the pacing of it, like the twist that happens in this first episode happens, I think, 7 issues in. So the first 6 issues are all just fun superhero stuff, and it's all pretty generic. And then there's this twist, and then like a whole bunch of stuff happens real fast. So I feel you can go back, like we said about the Marvel Universe. They're going to pick and choose the best of it, and kind of fix some of the speed bumps. And also, the book's not that old, but this show is much more diverse. Basically, every character in the original is white, and they have made Mark and his mom of Asian descent. The girlfriend, Zazie Beetz' character, was white in the comic. They made her African American. They've just changed the world a little bit. Just a few tweaks here and there to be a little more modern in their takes.
And see, that was my problem with the original series is I've honestly only read 1 issue, and it was the first issue, and that's what I thought. It was very generic. I was like, okay, this is Superboy. This is Superman, like his son, Superboy, and that's the story.
Seen it a million times. You've seen that that beginning a million times.
But that's what's cool to me though. Like this is in the same time. We just had The Boys. We've had these violent deconstructions already.
Oh, it's very The Boys.
But The Boys is not going to do that's the alien invasions, other dimensions, mad scientists. Like this show is love of comic history.
Yeah, all the fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the goofy, silly, Silver Age stuff, but in a more modern context.
Yeah.
So you're going to get that stuff that we all love, that some of these other shows would never get to or have time to do. So there's just, I don't know. And there's stuff in the comic, they'll introduce a character, like it'll be 1 page. Some character will show up and like, I will take over the world, and he'll just swoop in and punch him, and you'll never see that character again. And then there'll be stuff they set up in issue 2 that doesn't pay off till issue 20. So like, it's a very complex world with a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts and a ton of characters, which you even just a few episodes in, you can tell how many characters are going to be involved. So there's a whole lot of room to play here, and I think they could make something really good out of it, having this sprawling world.
It did remind me
I'm way into it. I loved it.
It reminded me quite a bit of DC's Young Justice cartoon that's been out the last few years. We just got an announcement for season 4 outcoming of that. But having such a diverse cast, a large cast, and with a lot of characters that they kind of, they flush out a little bit through these long story arcs. But of course, that show hasn't been able to really do the adult stuff like this one has. I mean, it has mature themes to it, and it has a huge fan base to it. But at its core, it's still a kid's cartoon show, where this is obviously meant for an older audience.
Yeah, this is solid blood.
And what I think is, like, for people like me that gets most excited about this is because if you think about all this multimedia that's out there, this is from a independent creator that, I mean, yes, it's through Image Comics, but he owns all of this. Like, this is just, multiple creators because of the artists and stuff that helped create it, but it's not owned by Marvel or DC. This is independently owned, and to see the quality of it fleshed out like this is amazing for anyone that's working.
I'm not sure
that
we
way.
even said this is Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead, was the writer of this as well. And yet, how easy is it to launch a superhero universe that's not Marvel or DC? Like,
yeah,
every publisher has tried it, and most of them don't catch on or last very long. So
I love
an independent superhero story is pretty rare.
I mean, just like every the Boys or any other show like that, it's just like, well, we're just gonna have it's just the Justice League, it's just different names.
Yeah,
it's like we don't have time to create a bunch of new powers and just the same template again. Let's just do that. And
but fine. I mean, that goes back to the whole history of comics. Is everything that comics have ever created was based off of something else,
right?
Like
so
Superman.
Why waste your time?
Yeah, I mean, it's based off of what we love,
and the world. Like, these last couple years has prepared the world for a show like this. Like, everyone now knows comic history. They know the archetypes. They know these types of characters and this kind of storyline. So they can dive right in, and it's a familiar place to them, not just this small niche culture anymore. So, yeah, I don't know if this show was possible 10 years ago, but it's definitely possible today.
So it's going to be 8 episodes. So we got 3 dropped right off the bat.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it. That's what I see.
At least for the first season. So
right, yeah.
At least they're long. Each one's like
they are long episodes. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm surprised. They feel long because they run to the credits and then there's still more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that threw me that first. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, I stopped it and just to check and see if they had just seamlessly went into the next episode. I was like, no, this is still it. I love the gimmick of not saying his name and just that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
There is one problem I have with it, and I'm curious if Jordan caught it or not, because it goes into our comic creating history. Did you have any problems with any of the characters, Jordan?
I almost said when we started this talk, what did they steal from you?
That's where I'm going. Do you remember, Jordan?
Nothing that I know.
Please tell me it's Rexplode.
No. It's Short Pants Romance had a character called Red Russian because she was a female. She was red.
That name, I was like, that name sounds familiar.
She was red. She was Russian, and she was on the team it was our version of the Teen Titans called the Upstarts.
Right. So yeah, she's on the team. Yeah.
And so anyway, like immediately,
they got a lot of nerve. They got a lot of nerve stealing from you, stealing from the Teen Titans. I can't believe it.
Hey, a Russian speedster. That's pretty unique. That was
and not yet again. Not only was it so close in name, but he had to be Russian. I mean, go on.
Now, does it make you feel less like that was a really great idea? Like red, what's red go with?
And that's pretty clever. Russian, like someone who's fast is Russian.
Yeah.
Oh man, we killed
Russian.
It.
Like I mean, we took it a step further. They said Red Rush. We said Red Russian.
Was it had an apostrophe? I think.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't want you to sue them. That's all it was.
The one thing I did get, Adam Eve, they gave her a little bit longer pants. In the comic, she's wearing basically like a one-piece swimsuit bikini bottom, so giving her a little bit of more
costume
coverage was good. And then, but they changed. There's a poster and a couple references to Seance Dog. The comic he reads, and in the comics it's Science Dog. Which in the Carl Grimes in The Walking Dead wears a Science Dog T-shirt in a couple episodes in the first season of Walking Dead as a reference to Invincible. So Invincible's favorite comic character is Science Dog, who's like a mad scientist. You know, he's like Doc Brown. You know, inventions, more like Rick Sanchez inventions, and they changed it to Seance Dog, where he's like a Doctor Strange kind of wizard. So I don't know what that means. If Science Dog is someone else, they stole it from some other poor web comic creator.
I don't know if I missed any reference or whatever, but I love that it's Reginald Bell Johnson High School or whatever. But I wanted there to be like something in the high school, like a picture of him or something. Yeah, you know, just some sort of reference or whatever. But
your sister immediately picked it out. It was like, I wasn't even paying attention, and all of a sudden she's like, that's blah, blah, blah.
That's so funny. And the other thing I was going to say, this reminded me of, I just remembered, it feels very Powers. Did you think so, Jordan? Or
yeah, definitely. It has a Powers vibe for sure.
This came out.
Well, that bears the question, does this exist without Powers?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because it definitely feels influenced by that.
Did this come out about the same time as Walking Dead?
He's got his compendium out.
That's the principal.
Oh, the principal's Reginald Bell Johnson.
The principal of Reginald Bell Johnson High School.
That's amazing. See, that's what I want. I want the principal to be him. You know,
they'll be like, the internet will like freak out over it. Next thing you know, he'll show up in an episode.
That would be awesome. Yeah. Oh, what have we got here?
Oh,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Jeez, right in my face.
Is that a penis?
No.
What about that? That was very Freudian.
Yeah. We see a Skippy costume on Adam Eve, and you see a penis.
So yeah, it's
all right. So
they're both we're 1 for 1 on shows here this week. So
we're 2 for
2. 2 for 2. I'm sorry.
2 for 2. And okay, now we had.
Speaking of mature superhero takes,
what are you finding now?
He's flipping.
So that's the sort of content.
Yeah,
the cartoon's not inventing the violence.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, you just from the little bit I'd seen of Invincible before, and then saw this animation, I was like, well, it looks exactly like the freaking comic book.
It is amazing how well they emulate his style. Like, you don't see that very often when it transitions. I mean, you can even go back to Darwin Cooks and the DC movie that they adapted. It still did not emulate his style as well as they're doing here.
Mm-hmm. Final Frontier is what he's talking about.
Yeah, I see you there. Hey, we're gonna need this every week, Jordan.
Okay,
every time
I'll
we watch
just
an
flip through the
episode,
pages.
You got to go flip through pages and show us what it looked like in the comic.
And that the demon detective was like a Rorschach analog. If you didn't catch.
That's what I thought. This is Rorschach, but then I thought it's like a Hellboy Rorschach.
Yeah, if you didn't catch the Herms he was given.
So, Jordan, do you have this on sale right now at your shop?
I do, and you can have the original like 6-issue trades or $15, or you get these big compendiums for $60. Collects 48 issues worth of comics.
Bigger the better for me. I want them to break my arm.
I think you can put me down for volume 1.
Although I do say the moment in the first episode I think was better in the comics. It built a little more. It was a little more out of nowhere.
Right. When it got to that moment, I had big identity crisis feels like also from that first episode. It just felt very you knew some bad stuff was going. It was all that Powers Boys identity crisis, all these things influence each other, I'm sure, but this is definitely a culmination of all that stuff.
Yeah, I get that.
I will say I had a very heartfelt moment that I'll share with you guys and the listeners when I was watching the episode that might go a little deeper than it should, but when the Invincible character says to his dad, it says, I want to be like you. Like, I want to be like, that's who I want to be like. Like, that, like, hit me. I was like, oh.
It's the monkey. It's the monkey all over again.
Ugh. But anyway.
He was being heartfelt, Cliff.
I ruined it.
Mute, Cliff.
You nailed it. That's a great reference that everyone should go back.
This is definitely, it's 120 issues of daddy issues of like, him working through how to deal with, I don't want to spoil, but it's lots of daddy issues on display, like most comic books are.
All right, so 2 for 2, and then we got a trailer drop today for James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
I didn't know it was coming. I wasn't expecting a trailer. I don't know if people have been waiting on this or not, but it kind of came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Because Jordan dropped it. And again, holy shnikes.
What's the actual title?
I think it's The Suicide Squad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was the first one, just Suicide Squad, I guess.
You gotta be kidding me. You're gonna risk the entire mission for a mental defective dressed as a court jester.
This coming from a guy that wears a toilet seat on his head. We don't leave one of our own behind.
Hopefully Harley's still alive.
No funny business, Colonel. These are dangerous people.
Team 2 is clear to go.
Fire. 3, 2.
What are you guys doing?
What?
We're here to save you.
You were gonna save me?
It was a really good plan, too.
Well, I can go back inside and you can still do it.
That's patronizing.
I'm so sorry. Harley Quinn.
Bloodsport.
You know the deal. Successfully complete the mission, you get 10 years off your sentence. You fail to follow my orders in any way, and I detonate the explosive device in the base of your skull.
Can do the job for free. So this is the famous Suicide Squad.
Num num.
Any questions?
And
Yes, that is your hand. Very good.
we're all gonna die.
I hope so.
I really wish this was the very first Suicide Squad. This is so good.
We
Just
all
pretend
do.
it is. Just pretend it is.
We all do.
Release the David Ayer cut.
Yeah, yeah, I had no idea this was coming as far as the trailer went. And then when Jordan sent it to us, and
You gotta be on Schmomo News. She's on top of everything.
That's
she dropped it.
But you put a little message in there about a heavy spoiler, and I almost didn't watch it, and I was like, ooh, I don't know if I wanna.
There's no way you'd avoid it in the next year.
Yeah.
Like I so wish I didn't know that,
I don't even know what you're talking about, and I watched the trailer. Like, what's the big spoiler?
One of the main villains they're fighting there.
Yeah.
Towards the end, on one of the major Justice League cover.
Oh,
yeah.
Marvel Light.
We can spoil it because everyone's gonna be talking
They're all
about
it's a trailer.
Yeah,
it's a freaking trailer.
Yeah, the big reveal is Stario.
The Conqueror.
Yeah.
The alien telepathic starfish.
The first.
Yeah, okay. That meant nothing to me. It's like, it's a big ass starfish.
That likes to rain starfish.
I forgot about. Now I can remember the comic cover with that on there, but at the time I was like, that was silly Justice League. I mean, Suicide Squad thing was all I was thinking.
Oh man,
I got you.
I lost my mind there for a second. I was like, I cannot believe this didn't leak out. Like,
that's what somebody told me. I was talking to today, and they said, "Oh, that had leaked accidentally." So people had already kind of known about it. So I think they just went ahead and put it out.
I was just not. All I was thinking about was, is that Sylvester Stallone?
I didn't even catch that. Like until I read it later online, I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
But the Stario has a great storyline in the Justice League with, whatever. Grant Morrison and Howard Porter was the artist on it. But anyway.
About what?
It was a great storyline with Stario or whatever.
Like a more current one? Or like 20 years
Well,
ago?
I mean, within, I guess it's been
20 years.
Probably 50. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, there's some good Stario stories out there, that's for sure. It's such a weird character, but man, I was just like,
a lot of time it's used for humor. And there's been some that are more scary, or it's the alien invasion that little starfishes attached to your face and like take over your mind. So like it can be like a body snatch, invasion of the body snatchers type thing. But mostly it's used as a joke from the Silver Age. But
and knowing that it's James Gunn, I was like, this is gonna be awesome. I am gonna.
I'm not convinced it's even the main villain. Like it could just be.
I wouldn't have thought so. I don't get that
random.
I don't get that vibe.
Yeah.
And like the shot of it opening up with them in plain clothes, but they're wearing their helmets and shit. I mean, like that was so good.
Yeah, I thought the tone was right. The dialogue was the back and forth dialogue was pretty sharp. The action looked good. So there's. Nothing more needs to convince me to watch it.
I like Jordan and I saw we saw 2 movies last year. I like Birds of Prey or whatever.
I like that.
I did too.
So this looks good.
Yeah.
I'm psyched. Looks good. Good stuff. 3 for 3.
Yeah.
So my Facebook memories the other day said 5 years ago, I posted a Zack Snyder quote when he was on Conan O'Brien talking about how Superman could swoop in to every world leader and beat them to death if they didn't do right. And I posted like, enjoy the new movie, everybody. So I knew the original Justice League came out 5 years ago. And it took that long and that many hashtags to get Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Has it really been 5 years?
That's according to Facebook.
The Snyder cut.
Wow. I remember sitting in that little room in Michael's apartment talking about Justice League like it was yesterday. And that's been 5 years ago.
Again, Man of Steel.
Man.
So this is, if you're unfamiliar, you're lucky.
Yeah. Go back in your hole.
Zack Snyder had a family tragedy. His daughter died. And if you watch past the credits on this one, it said for Autumn, I believe. So he dedicated this movie to her. So he didn't get to finish his original cut. They brought in Joss Whedon, reshot a bunch of stuff. There was studio meddling. No one was happy with the final product. Critics didn't like it. Fans were kind of split on it. So in the intervening years, there's been the fabled. So everybody loves the backup quarterback. Everything. the guy who's out there is a bum, but if we just had this other thing, we could, so the fans just knew the Snyder Cut had fixed all the problems and was amazing. So they lobbied for years to get it, and now we have it. 4 hours and 2 minutes, R-rated, 4:3 aspect ratio, and it's out there now on HBO Max.
Now, I just want to interject for a second, that I think the reason for all this, we have to go back to the Donner cut of Superman 2. Like, this is where, like, that originally started, where there was, like, this fan uproar of this version's far superior to what we saw. And when that was released, even though it was unfinished, it seemed to get critical acclaim that, like, this was far superior to what we originally got. So I feel like this is along the same thinking of, okay, if we actually listen to what the original vision was, it will be better than what we saw on screen.
And
every time Michael defends this movie tonight, could you lay in that Wonder Woman, that the music that plays every time?
I'm gonna totally be against all three of you tonight.
The closed captioning called that ancient lamentation music. That's as good as I got. So.
That's a Conan quote, right?
Yeah.
Play my my
remember,
lamentation music.
So against Snyder and his versions of Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman.
But you love the original cut. I remember quite a lot.
Yeah, I
liked
it.
I did. Like, I cried when Superman was on screen talking about hope in the opening scene. I will be honest. Like, I love that scene. I was so excited because, again, this is all the characters that I loved and grew up with, just like Seth on Avengers. But watching this version of it, I was glued to my screen, unlike you guys.
Well, there's plenty to like about it, but I'm kind of surprised. I don't know. I don't think there's a version of this that you won't like.
That's possible. But, after we watched the full cut of the movie, Chris and I went back and watched the opening scene of the Whedon cut, and I was like, okay, so this is where this has changed and stuff. And I'm like, because HBO Max also has the Batman versus Superman Ultimate Edition, where it is if you go back and watch that, it's far superior from the theater cut, because unfortunately they cut out a lot of scenes that makes the movie make sense. Where
that's always the trouble when things just don't make any sense.
Well,
you need an extra hour to cement it all together.
Basically, Zack Snyder can't make a movie within 2 hours, is what he's saying.
Yeah, but I remember when Jordan and I went and watched Batman versus Superman, I was pissed. And I say this this is probably the 6th podcast I've said this. I was so superior pissed. But not long ago, I watched the Ultimate Edition on HBO Max, and it was great. It was good. It all actually made sense. Where I feel like this movie has a better understanding of what the story was.
I was just a little surprised how much you like it, and I think you're always so... Maybe not. I remember you giving a diatribe about how Superman is good and he's supposed to be what we strive to be, and yada yada. And this movie is like before, after, future, dream, now, then. He's a bad guy all the freaking time. He is the worst. Worst. We need no Superman.
I can defend that because it's showing right in the first cut scene of the death of Superman is such a big deal that he is such a beacon of hope, and he is so powerful that he is just not felt among the Earthlings. He is felt across the universe. This wasn't the opening scene.
But yeah, but like the movie never, Zack Snyder never established that for his character.
Well,
like he was snapping necks and knocking down buildings, and then it's like, oh, the people really miss this guy. He was hopeful. It's like when? But you can like lay on your beliefs in Superman, and you can obviously
bring a
get
lot
that
to the
watching
table.
it.
This is the Snyder cut plus what Michael's got in his head happen.
Well, my issue with that is like, I kind of like Ben Affleck as Batman. I like Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman a lot
when she doesn't talk.
I was happy with the Aquaman movie. Like, it was good enough for me. I feel like it should all work better. I don't care for Ezra Miller's Flash. But I thought in this new cut, I thought Ray Fisher's Cyborg was great.
Oh my, yeah. I mean, no wonder that guy was so freaking mad.
Right.
That's what I was just going to say.
He thought he was about to be a star, and then he got cut. All of that stuff that he filmed. Can you imagine filming all that stuff and thinking you were going to be the heart of a movie?
Yeah.
And then you're nothing.
But I do feel like Zack Snyder has been in such a rush this entire time with all of these films to make Superman the bad guy. Like, he wants to get to that point to where, hey, there's this story with Darkseid and Apocalypse where he gets control of Superman, and Superman, is enemy number one, and everybody's got to reunite to bring him back. Like, he wants that to be the story.
DC trying to cheat the Marvel method here and go and not build movies of this guy, movies of this guy, movies of this girl. Then build up to something. It's like, no, we got to skip to Justice League and then do Aquaman, and then it's just like they got in too big of a hurry.
Constantly.
There's always been that segment of fans who don't like Superman because he's too bright and cheery. They want to be dark and gritty. And Snyder's definitely that. He's that edgelord, like everything's, sleek and angry. But like, I don't think he either doesn't get Superman or doesn't like Superman or something. Like, his politics do not align with Superman, where like he is that Ayn Rand sort of like, the special person doesn't owe the lesser beings anything. Like, that, if you have power and strength, you just deal with yourself and don't help anyone else. There's nothing in it for you. And that idea of like this whole movie, they have to get Superman back because he's the strongest. He's the most powerful. He can hurt the guy the most, not because he's a beacon of hope or he can bring us together or he can heal the world. It's like, no, we need someone who can punch hard.
That's exactly what I mean by what Michael's saying. I get that you are laying that on there. And I totally get that. I bring baggage to movies all the time, but I think that he's never even implying that when he wants, it's all about the punching. It's all about this guy's strong. And Superman can be so freaking great.
Yeah.
It's just like the ball is so dropped with him because there's no contrast between these characters. If they're all dark and dirty, it's like he could, I don't know. I think I haven't read tons of Superman like you, but I like, him. I want him to be the good guy, when he is there. You can't just start with it, start, middle, and end. He's the bad guy.
Yeah, that was really the part of this, whatever it is that I didn't like, is they put him in the black suit, and I'm like, why?
It's just because of the comics.
Yeah.
Well, only reason is because that's what happened when he came back.
But in the same way, even though I like Ben Affleck as his Batman character, they did the same thing. Like, they totally got parts of him wrong too. Like the branding of the criminals and Batman using guns. Like, they're all principles I feel like Batman would never do. There wasn't a scene
in this movie Batman didn't have a gun in his hand.
Right.
Like, the whole movie was guns, guns, guns.
It's crazy.
Guns.
The suit is perfect. He looks great.
Yeah.
It seems silly to me that of all the Batman we had, I feel like that's the best looking Batman we've ever had, and he does a fine job at it. Except he's never Batman. He's never smart. he's never the best detective. He's only the guy with the biggest guns. And as long as you give him one parademon at a time, he's going to be able to keep up with all these people that are far better than him. Like the whole point is of Batman is that all these people he's with are super powerful, can control all the missiles in the world, or punch everything the strongest, or be 1,500-year-old strong Amazonian woman, or do this, be a king of all the seas, and he is nothing, has no power. And to show that, instead of doing something clever with that and showing how he could stand there with them alongside, they're like, it's because he's got these guns and this car. It's terribly done.
Now that being said, after watching this 4-hour thing, yeah, right now I would tell you, yes, the Snyder Cut is better than...
Oh, I totally think it's better, yeah.
Than what the first movie we got. And I didn't hate it in any way. I do have problems with it. But I don't know, it's just weird. It was like when he's Clark Kent, I'm fine with it in this movie. But the minute it's Superman, I'm just like, who is this guy? I don't know.
I honestly don't even, I'm bagging on it, but I actually enjoyed it. Like I was kind of live saying stuff as I watched it that one night. I watched, 2/3 of it before I fell asleep.
Yeah.
But I was enjoying, I liked the epicness of it. The longer openings, the less silly stuff. When like Aquaman jumps in the water, it's just like a blip. It's not like in the original, it was more of a silly, cartoony looking things. Yeah, exactly. I like the music and all the things they did. The Flash scene, where he saves that girl is just like, I love that song playing over it, even though the hot dog stuff was a bit much. But it's just like dragging it out is not the right way to put it to me. Like I think letting stuff breathe, makes it mean more, I guess, to me.
And that was the best part of this movie and the worst part, because I agree too. I think it's a superior product, but Seth, we had talked earlier, like. This couldn't exist. No studio on earth would allow him to release a 4-hour movie. So you either learn to do it in 2 hours correctly, or there's no reason it even should exist. But yeah, so you get all this extra space to go into Cyborg's backstory. You learn a little bit more about Flash.
Or do two movies. We had Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
Stop when they get to the point, hey guys, I'm not going to say it, but we all know what we got to do. And
to be continued.
There you go. We know
it was 2 movies.
Yeah, but I mean, just as far as this could have been their big. No, don't even have Superman in the first movie. He's dead for the whole movie, which it basically is like that. It's all half this movie, and then come back in the next one.
So all this freedom. The final cut that he gets, all this extra space and time he has, adds a lot of great stuff, but it also has so much bulk and not 1, not 2, but 3 trips for coffee. Lois makes
in slow-mo,
in slow-mo
coffee.
Do you guys know who the cop was? Like, did you all get that?
No,
I didn't pay attention.
Oh my God, you people! That was Jimmy. That was Jimmy Olsen from the Superman movies, the original Jimmy Olsen.
Why would I?
Oh, was it?
Oh my God, I should just train all of you guys. That's the whole, that is the whole thing with Superman. Like, they always reuse the actors to everything that he's ever appeared in. That was the original Jimmy Olsen from the Christopher Reeves movies. That was the whole point of that whole scene.
So it was pointless.
So it was pointless. We didn't need 3 times of coffee.
But there's a lot of it, like you said, every time there's like some Snyder music added in there to a scene, I was just sitting there and I'm just like, not every movie has to be Watchmen. Like, you can do something different. Like, everything he makes, I feel like, is just a carbon copy of Watchmen.
I saw somebody in a comment section mentioning that how putting a cup of coffee on a table has that pulsing music and slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
So if everything has that, then it's not
nothing.
It's exhausting.
Right.
You're supposed to be like amped up and adrenalized for the whole movie. Every little thing is it's like, no, that you have to have peaks and valleys of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
see, that's.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that's where I really enjoyed the slowing down and the speeding up of. I kept looking at it in terms of a comic book of when he would slow it down. That's a great shot of a panel in a comic book like that. Like I keep thinking of like the football scene of Cyborg's character like playing football and then like there's other times where like him speeding it up into the action of again I keep breaking it down into like comic book panels where it's like I really enjoyed that. Because like I mean like recently I've been doing a lot of photo reference of different shots and things and I'm like, oh, that's a great shot and an angle, and he's slowing it down to show you the whole motion of the action.
So what did we sorry.
I love the new version of the big battle, the first time they fought Darkseid.
Yes.
That's my favorite part of the entire movie. It's all the heroes of men and the Atlanteans and the Amazonians and the Green Lanterns and these gods. Epic. And I could have watched that movie.
We understood what they were fighting over. Like,
right.
It made more sense what was even happening.
Right. So
I will say that this was never made to be a Superman movie. Like the Whedon cut is totally a Superman movie. This was made as a Justice League movie. Like all the other characters had, I mean, actually Superman's almost a supporting character in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Well, I thought the overall special effects were lacking. And I don't know if that's just me watching it on my little screen, not widescreen, like not getting the grandeur of it all, but for whatever many millions they spent on this, the effects, the Darkseid effects, the Steppenwolf effects, it didn't look great.
If you didn't know who they were, like they're so the same. They're so samey. It's just like deep voice, dark, carry a club or whatever.
My one bad thing about all of it that I will say is with the whole, actually just how if you're watching this in our special patrons only, how I'm more of a 4-3 box right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like I immediately think like I feel like he used that as a marketing ploy, but that was really just a money thing of if it was a wide shot, it would cost more to do the special effects. So with it being a tighter angle, they didn't have to spend as much money.
I heard him say it was to do with the IMAX format. It was that's a better presentation in IMAX, but I
don't know if I buy it. I think they'll do that, but I don't know if that makes sense totally as an excuse.
I've actually heard that used with other films before. Like, oh, we shot this sequence for IMAX, and it'll switch back and forth. Like I have seen that before. It wasn't
shot IMAX, so
yeah.
I don't know.
And
I gotta say, I do not. WandaVision has ruined me, guys. For costumes, I hated every costume in this. We talked about
costume is so bad.
We talked about with Wanda and her new costume and how like it's very busy. There's a lot of stripes and lines, and like compared it to her Halloween costume of just tights, red tights, and how simple it was. And now every costume I see now, it's Aquaman. He's supposed to be fish scales, but it's like line. Every detail. Batman is very clean. It's a very cool looking costume, but there's patches on the arms and fake abs, and like everything has the mesh looking armor look. Cyborg looks like a transformer. Flash is horrible. Flash is just plates and like Flash has one of the most iconic costumes ever.
I know. The reason I'm so mad about Flash is because he's one of my favorite DC characters, and he shouldn't have any freaking metal on him.
He looked more like the Red Russian than they did the Flash.
Exactly.
Which again, they went out of their way to explain it. It's this carbon polymer. Well, who cares? It just doesn't look good. And Steppenwolf, he gave me a headache every time I looked at him with his little flippity floppity armor, like spiking up and like.
See, I thought that was super cool.
I was just imagining how annoying that would sound every time he walks by, like he had a pocket full of change.
Every time he gets up in the middle of the night for a snack, everybody's up.
Yeah.
The main thing
with his little loincloth flapping in the breeze, like I hated how he looked.
About Steppenwolf was his little face on that big body, and like it didn't make it like the face didn't look.
He looked like
enough.
the little alien thing that comes out of the mouth or whatever.
Yeah. But he almost looked like a cute plushie that you wanted to pet. But he had all this like,
hello, my baby, hello, my
armor.
Hello, my ragtime.
Yeah, it's like a cute dog with a spike collar on. Like
this version was better than the original for Steppenwolf. However, I don't
remember the original.
I do agree with Seth in the fact that they all look the same from Apocalypse, like Darkseid, Desaad. They were all just kind of gray aliens.
If you didn't know who Desaad was,
no.
What do you take away from that?
And
nothing.
Especially when these are Jack Kirby designs that are colorful and outrageous. Let's just use it as it is. I mean, I don't understand how they thought that was an improvement just to make it look more alien.
Yeah, we talked for quite a long time on our WandaVision final episode about costumes and clean looks and simple lines and stuff, and like how it kind of worked, and it kind of is now starting to ruin me for the X-Men leather jackets, like how it was. The comic look was an embarrassment. We got to get away from that and go realistic. Everything has to look like leather and armor. And it's like the better productions are proving that wrong. Right. And this one it was just a mishmash of 15 different costumes, and each was worse than the next for me. So I didn't like the look of anybody on the screen.
The one thing I will say about Superman's black costume, I didn't like it at the end. Like when they were like all standing there, it was way too much black. Like that didn't make any sense. But if you go back to the first Man of Steel with the Kryptonians on planet Krypton, they were all dressed like that in the same color scheme. Again, I get it. It references the comic and when he returns, which is a big point. I understood the whole point of him having that costume, but at the very end,
he should
have showed him back in the red, blue, and yellow costume.
Yeah,
that would have made more sense.
Yep,
I totally agree. Because
he is a beacon of hope, and like that's what, to me. And again, I get that I'm a little blindsided because of my love of Superman, just like of your love of Captain America, Seth. To me, it showed how much, like, it felt to me like the whole time Zack Snyder is trying to say how important Superman is, and is showing through the different actions of this is why he is needed and this is what his character is. But the problem is he's showing Superman too early on where he's not fully formed. And he's trying to introduce all these future elements into him. Just like the original why I had such a bad experience with Batman versus Superman was he was showing Superman early in his career versus Batman Dark Knight Frank Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if he turns evil. It doesn't matter because we never got to know the good Superman.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, whatever the next version we get of Superman, it ain't gonna be dark. Like I don't see how
it's telling that CW show has been airing right now as the Snyder Cut comes out with the most positive, loving, goofy, hopeful Superman we've seen in a long time. Airing exactly now.
Loving that show so much, other than the fake muscle suit. Everything else I love.
Well, they can't all just be naturally ripped like you.
Well, but the one thing I will say about the Snyder Cut that I did not like was the very ending where it showed Joker and all of them.
Okay, well, let's talk about the epilogue here. Let's get into that.
All right, so I was taking notes throughout this, and I wrote, the longer this goes, the less sense it makes for the Joker to show up. Because I think I was 3 hours into it. I'm like, I know the Joker shows up, but it's not going to make any... How is it ever going to make sense when he does? And then, did it? Let's discuss.
I did notice he didn't say we live in a society. Release the we live in a society cut.
The one thing that I forgot to mention before we go into this, it did affect the parademons. Like the whole reason why they existed and what they were doing. Like in the Whedon cut, it was that they were attracted to fear. Versus this one, they were following the scent of the mother boxes.
Cliff, you look like you're falling out of your chair. You look like you're sliding down your chair.
It was a weird take also. There were no civilians involved in this big final battle. The Whedon version, it was like he went out of his way to show them saving people, evacuating houses, getting people out of the blast zone, and like there were no civilians involved at all. You two clowns are yucking it up on the camera over there. Trying to make
Marvel lights.
For patrons.
Okay, so we got like a 30-minute epilogue that sets up about 3 more movies that we're never going to get.
Right.
I don't.
This is all new footage. This is what they spent their money on.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to set up this stuff that's never going to happen.
So
I figured this was the whole point of this, is to say, hey, this was where we were going to go.
Mm-hmm. I do too. I do.
Well, I got the scoop on that before we're done.
Will you explain to me what good the Joker was going to do them in this situation?
The other thing I have to say is I feel like throughout the whole Snyder Cut movie, that I want to point out, there was some shots that I feel like were reshot of Ben Affleck, because there were some things where, like, I remember watching, like, well, not watching, but seeing pics of him beefing up for the role, and then seeing these shots of him, like, much more toned down. And it's like, okay, this is after the effect. Yeah. This is Slim Affleck.
He's standing there, he's by Deathstroke, and he's walking his dog, he's got a coffee.
But seriously, did anyone else notice that?
I just knew it was later. This is like the added on stuff that they did later.
Okay, so it's the thing with Deathstroke and Lex Luthor on the boat, that was the original tag. And so, okay, he reveals the Batman's Bruce Wayne. Okay, that's never going to amount to anything. We had Martian Manhunter show up. It's like, hey,
I'm Martian Manhunter.
I've been here all along. I know what's going on. I didn't help at all, but I'll be back next time.
Right.
When I was watching that, I was so freaking mad when he, when after you see it's a dream or whatever, and he goes and tells freaking Bruce Wayne, by the way, and you could call me Martian Manhunter. I was like, I freaking hate that. It made me actively mad. My blood pressure went up. I'm sick of people announcing their names and looking at the camera and just like, I am this person. And I wanted so bad if it would have been perfect if he just said, John, call me John.
I need to interject. Is that what you're going to go with, Jordan?
What?
The Green Lantern thing?
No.
I
was going to say it would be so much better if he called himself Martha Manhunter. Because he first posed as Martha, and it's
exactly.
It's like, hey, I'm Martha Manhunter signing off.
That was one of the few things that Zach did not get to do. Is that was supposed to be
that was
Green
worth
Lantern.
It, Jordan. That was good. No.
Yeah. That wasn't supposed to be Martian Manhunter. Originally, it was Green Lantern. He had an actor shot the scene. Like, it was additional footage he originally made that
Yeah, that guy's a well-known actor. Like he was in the previous versions as that military character, so it would make sense if they were going to give him for Jones.
But wouldn't it have been better if he just said, I'm John or whatever?
Yeah.
That was so hokey and stupid.
It was supposed to totally be Green Lantern, and the executives like pulled an audible and said, absolutely not. You're not allowed to do that.
Right.
Like he had filmed the scene and everything, and they said, nope, we're not going to do it.
It was Ryan Reynolds.
Yes, Ryan Reynolds. He was not allowed to do it.
So was that worse than the first scene he was in, where he went and talked to Lois?
Well, that was terrible because I wanted that scene to have been real.
Yeah,
I wanted that interaction between the two women. Now it's about this dude that slipped in there, and it's both bad.
Okay, so the ending everybody's talking about, we went back to the nightmare reality that was the dream in the first version. Batman, Cyborg, Mara, Deathstroke, Flash, and the Joker. We learned, so he says, you let Lois die. And we've already heard Lois is the key to everything and all this stuff. So this was 10 minutes or more. And people are saying, this is redeemed Jared Leto's Joker. And this was, he was good in the scene. It was fine. In a different context, it may have all worked, but it just didn't do anything for me.
All it did was made him into the Heath Ledger version. Like, I mean, come on. Look, the way he looks and everything, it was obvious that it was like, we messed up in the first version of him, so we're going to go with the original version.
Ugh. It was awful.
Yeah.
Still better than...
I'm going to kill you.
That was good.
Like, what is happening? What am I watching anymore?
And yet, side tangent, why was this movie rated R? There were like 3 F-bombs that didn't mean anything and barely any more violence than a Marvel movie. So like there was no reason to make especially to make a big deal like Snyder's R-rated cut.
It's because it makes it more outstanding.
Again,
and
it's edgy.
Yeah. It's extreme.
Wait till it's black and white.
Did we all hear the plan for the next movies he was going to do?
Are you going to talk about the freaking
restore the Snyderverse hashtag?
No, I heard some version of that he admitted to that something with, I got to think what it was. Maybe you're going to say, but it was something about them having a kid and wanting him to be Batman. That's what I was going to
go with.
All right, so there's been over 1.27 million tweets, hashtag restore the Snyderverse. So we gave the Snyder Bros what they wanted, and it's not enough. They want more. They want him to be able to film his follow-ups to this movie. Trilogy. So, and DC has said, or Warner's has said this is not happening. This is the last time, but they said that before. Keep hashtagging everybody. So there was a interview in Variety magazine, and apparently there was a thing for charity. They set up an exhibit at something in Dallas, Texas, with a 40-foot dry erase board that detailed the outline of the next 2 movies he was going to do. So you could go to this thing in Dallas and pay money and go up and read all the character beats and all that stuff for the next 2 movies. So, quote, it was basically the fall of Earth to Darkseid. And then in the post-apocalyptic world, Flash and Cyborg and Bruce figure out a way to jump Flash back in time to prevent Lois's death so Superman doesn't succumb to the anti-life equation. Okay, that all fits, right? Like we saw Flash jump back in time.
Mm-hmm.
We've had references to Lois is the key to everything. And even in this one, it showed early in the movie how Flash's speed affects time. And then by the end, he's running around the Earth backwards like Superman. Turn back time. Then the third movie was the uniting of all the forces of Earth to defeat Darkseid. It was a giant Lord of the Rings style battle movie. Okay, so then he confirmed. Now, why has Michael left during this segment? So he needs to defend all this. Okay, so did we notice early in the movie in Lois's drawer she had a pregnancy test?
Yeah.
Did
Called
everyone-
from force majeure. What a freaking name for a pregnancy test, though.
So they teased, is Lois pregnant? So he confirms, this was kind of an internet rumor, so this has been confirmed. The idea was that Lois and Bruce hooked up while they thought Superman was dead. Lois becomes pregnant with Bruce's child and then lies to both Bruce and Clark and says Clark is the father.
And we're
What?
back to Batman versus Superman.
Right. Okay, so at that's the point Darkseid kills Lois, which breaks Clark and allows Darkseid to get control of his mind and make him his minion without ever knowing it wasn't his kid.
Mhm.
So eventually Flash travels back in time and tells Bruce he's actually the father. And Lois admits to lying. And then this time when Darkseid shows up, instead of killing Lois, Batman sacrifices himself to save Lois because it's his kid. He wouldn't save somebody if it's somebody else's kid. But because it's his kid, he sacrifices his life to save Lois, therefore preventing Superman from, becoming sad and susceptible to anti-life.
Becoming sad.
And then, so Superman can punch him to death, I guess, after
Right.
that. So that was the plan. That's the Snyderverse.
Did you
But
guys?
then
They were going to take him to the Batcave when he got old enough, and tell him to be Batman, or whatever, because he didn't have any powers or anything. And it's like they were basically going to no power shame him into being a hero or whatever. It's like,
But see, this is where, like the other day, I was talking to Jordan online, asking him about John Byrne's Generations, because there's an omnibus that collects volume 1, 2, and 3, and in his story, that's what happens: is that one of Superman's sons, doesn't have powers, so he grows up to become like Nightwing, and then Batman.
Did you guys ever watch the late '90s Superman animated adventures cartoon?
Yes.
Do you remember towards the end of that run, Michael, when they did the whole Superman gets brainwashed by Darkseid and is used to be, he's like his general and to take over Earth?
Yeah.
Didn't points of this remind you a lot of that?
Well, I mean, that goes back to the comic books too, because there's been various storylines that they've had that where, I mean, there's even I think there's an Elseworld story where Superman crash lands on Apocalypse and is raised by Darkseid to be his general.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's various storylines of him being controlled by Darkseid to be his number one, and basically destroying Earth.
I mean, I don't know. It was better than the original. I like the casting they did, but clearly the problem, I think, what all of us have is the story was, crap from the get-go.
So where do we go if we can't reboot it?
No.
We still have Wonder Woman and Aquaman and popular franchises, and like Flash is supposed to get his own movie. So like, do we just ignore this and go on to new stuff? What do they do after this?
Well, I mean, that's the thing with, like they said that with years ago with the Incredible Hulk with Universal, is that they have figured out that you wait 5 years and then you can do whatever you want. Like that's how long the cycle is of, like, if you go from the, was it Eric Bana that played the Hulk in the, if you, like there was 5 years between that and the next one with Edward Norton, and that the Edward Norton one was so well received. So they figured out, it was like, oh, okay. So if we wait 5 years, we can do whatever we want because there's a whole nother generation that's going to buy into whatever we're pimping out, basically.
So they need to make it 10 years.
The one thing
don't make any more. Stop making Batman, Superman movies. You have.
Well, I mean, that's the whole.
You have so many characters out there. Look at what
That's
Marvel's
the whole
done.
argument.
Yeah,
right there.
There's such better stories out there. You obviously don't know how to use Batman and Superman to make a movie.
That's the problem, is because it's owned by AT&T right now, is that they're just looking at the main characters. They don't understand this rich history of characters that they have that Marvel's figured out. Like, and nobody cared about the Guardians of the Galaxy. Look what happened with that.
Right. But care about who you're hiring to make these stories, because there has to be an understanding of the character, of what people like about the story, of the characters, the backgrounds of this. We can't just hire, do the Star Wars thing and say we're going to hire JJ to remake, the original, and because he's a name,
I think that's where Marvel got lucky, maybe not having Spider-Man and the X-Men available. Like, they had these lesser characters that people, that maybe the studios weren't quite as looking over their shoulder at everything, and could be more comic accurate, and
it's not it's not just a DC problem. I mean, we went through this with Transformers and Michael Bay, and I mean, there's been numerous other great franchises that they've dumped.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I mean, they've dumped some name that they think, well, this guy, he made this movie, so obviously he can do this.
Because this stuff isn't, just a brand name. It's like putting Battleship on a movie, and like there's no source material for Battleship to like decide how to turn it into a movie. But like, they treat them like that. It's like, this is just a toy line. This is just a comic book. Mm-hmm. Just throw a hot director at it and pump out some product. Like, we had that for a long time. We had to deal with that, and I think we're finally learning our lesson. So this hopefully is the last gasp of that. This is a 5-year-old movie. Maybe we've learned some lessons in the meantime. Hey, did you know what was on the? Did you know what was on the side of the semi truck that Flash stopped from crashing? You know who the cop was? Do you know what was written on the semi truck?
What was written on the semi truck?
It was a fox.
It said that Jimmy Olsen is the cop.
Yeah, it said Jimmy's. It was a fox dressed up in like overalls. It was like a produce truck, and it said Gardner Fox.
Oh,
who is the co-creator of the Flash, famous DC artist. So it had a little cartoon literally Gardner Fox. So I saw some stuff too.
Yeah.
And that 12-mile-per-hour car crash that, like, she was literally pulling out of a parking space, and the truck's like, "Oh no!" Like, it was like the most dramatic slow speed crash of it, and like she's flying through the windshield. It was pretty epic.
Yeah.
So are we 4 for 4 or or are we
Well, I think we didn't have anything bad to say about the first 3 things, and we did nothing but bitch about the last one. And ironically, I like this better than Justice League.
Yeah, I did too.
Oh, you completely trashed the Whedon version.
It was terrible. It was terrible. This was much more. This was much better and more coherent. I just think. I honestly think. I still would have had plenty to complain about, but if it had been they took this and made it in 2 movies, cut it right after they decided they're going to have to bring Superman back, and I think that then he can keep the pace he likes to have.
I think if this would have been like originally released, it would have been cut down to, like, if it was Zach's version, it would have been cut down to like a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, 2:45 would be realistic. People do it.
Well, guys, as always, I may be the illustrious Michael K. Easton, but Cyborg doesn't fly.
Oh, you know what else? He could control all of the rockets and missiles and everything in the entire world, but he can't control his arm.
That's true.
He's looking at me funny. Oh no!
Yikes.
All right. Keep an eye on your mother box, everybody. My name is Jordan Lowe.
Cliff Barnes.
And I'm Stario. Bye forever.
It's a me, a Stario.
Oh,
Do you want to be my little friend?
Have you ever seen a starfish with a mustache?
Wow.
That was one of the great moments. The freaking mustache.
That was worth that whole I don't know, however long that was.
Oh, yeah.
Just that last line.
At least
2 hours. Ka-Pow, the Pop Cultured Podcast, is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during the podcast are property of copyright holders. All original content is property of www.udamwithkpp.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a comment. Ka-Pow, the Pop Cultured Podcast, is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. You can connect with us through social media on Facebook, YouTube, at the Ka-Pow Podcast on Twitter, or email the show, Ka-Pow, the Pop Cultured Podcast, @gmail.com. If you really want to go the extra mile, please sign up to be a patron through the Podbean app or our website, www.udamwithkpp.com, to receive special content and early access to some episodes. We are grateful to anyone that chooses to contribute, but please know that most of our content will always remain free, so please continue to like, comment, and share.